as we continue our conversation from our episode, Like a Hummingbird, You Can Travel and Go Long Distances to Bring What You Want to Share with the World. I welcome anyone who's returning and anyone who's new. Here we are going to chit chat about the spiritual and scientific process, person and mystic, and how they are not the same as the spiritual and science ego, people and mystics. And I'm giving you my subjective mystic enlightenment, soul age group, functional, inner child, adult, spiritual experience. Maria. So I begin my life with God, Jesus, Holy Spirit. Then I am opened up to clairs, which by the way are the same as spiritual gifts, but obviously for that which I have been letting you in on. Fun fact, they have different energetic imprints. Oh, and sciences and spirituality come together. So I get to bring human, spiritual, and spirituality sciences together, and I'm a 5D mystic. The Christ consciousness, oneness consciousness. It's because of integration of the brain, and I have attachment and trauma information, certificates, and more. So being yourself is very, very much something I am completely aware of. In addition to the inner growth mindset, we use mindfulness practices and mindset skills. When our contents, the subscription-based model content will be out, you'll have exercises if you want. In the meantime, I get to share stories, channeled guidance, stuff like that. And obviously, if you want mentorship, that's one-to-one, or sign up for the masterclass, which is in the making, and for the spiritual retreats in the future. Okay, so with that being said, here's where, like the little hummingbird, you can travel the earth and go long distances to bring that which you are here to share with the world and leave it behind a little bit better than yesterday, for today and for future generations to come. Every little bit counts. So mindfully and spiritually living and loving mystics and people, we know how to be in our prefrontal cortex. So we're in the now, and we have integrated brains, and we have an internally securely attached body, and that's why our mind and body work together, empowered masculine and feminine. And I'm going to read to you that which came through, and that's for, again, the 5D Christ Consciousness Collective. Not all people are in the integrated brain group. They don't want to get internally securely attached, and they don't have to. Determined, Robert Sapolsky tells us there's no free will. God informed me to leave alone the 0-1-year-olds who are human suffering people. And so, again, the spiritual process, let me talk to you in Maria's words. Okay, so please remember, do not assume that I use words like a dictionary, because no, I don't. The spiritual process is not the same as spiritual ego. The scientific process and person is not the same as science ego. The pause self-ego is not the same as the whole self-ego. Internal secure attachment of all your child parts, bilateral integration of the brain, and restorative embodiment as you live life and love mindfully and or spiritually give you and humanity access to what God intended for every one of his children. Mother Earth Gaia for her children, spirit, Akash, universe, creator, dark matter and dark energy, the universal laws, etc. A person of true spirituality will know in their heart, mind, body, self, that no creator from the spirituality realm would ever come for its children with vengeance because of mistakes, flaws, imperfections, ignorance, blind, paused self-ego, and suffering minds that need a good therapist. A person of true science will know in their heart, mind, body, self of universal laws and new discoveries coming up over time as scientific research and studies are conducted and progress. They do not deny findings that prove that it is possible to heal the minds and hearts of people in humanity. The scary God, the good and evil, and spiritual warfare stories that served our ancestors to answer unanswerable questions that came up with natural disasters and human maladaptive patterns of behaviors, to establish order out of chaos, to grow societies that would work together safely and securely with integrity and hold values and morals that we still have today, are only upheld by spiritual science and pause self-blind egos of non-bilaterally integrated brains and dysregulated, modulated embodiment people and mystics. While our ancestors didn't have the tools and technology and sciences to know how our embodied brain works and how our humanity, consciousness, and our self and or spiritual process got accessed, today this is different. Today we have more than enough evidence of why human beings do what they do and why within every person good and evil can exist. However, humanity's evil is not Lucifer or demons, which gets perpetuated still by spiritual science and paused self-blind egos. Humanity's good and evil, kindness and unkindness, stem from a nervous system that has only three modalities it engages in, and an embodied brain that can be integrated or not, and a body and mind that accumulate implicit and explicit memories starting in the womb. The blind egos that reject this good news and straightforward explanation stem from people and mystics again who have a paused self with a non-bilaterally integrated brain and who live life and relationships with dysregulated and modulated embodiment. It involves those disregarding healing their shame, blame, fault, and revenge cycle lives. They uphold and want to stay in the dysregulated and modulated embodiment that their adaptive child is used to, and the unhealthy, self-soothing, maladaptive patterns of thinking, behaviors, and mannerisms. You will note that these individuals and mystics are motivated by and have low self-esteem, suffering, envy, jealousy, spite, and lack of emotional availability, awareness, mastery, and maturity. They do not hold compassion for our brothers and sisters because they weren't held with compassion. Somewhere in their journey, they were shamed, made to feel helpless and hopeless, and so they bring forth nightmare narratives and superhero and supervillain battles. The battle stories, yes. Anybody? I mean, they're on with another new battle scenario going on. So, the non-bilaterally integrated brain's implicit and explicit memory is what's brought up, all full of a child's fear in the darkness of the unknown and with a nervous system in threat or life threat response, like the fancy lady man that I make fun of in Suits all the time. Yeah, definitely. She just wants to stay in that threat response. But there's others who say, you were the chosen one in your family to be the one. And that evil karmic that was following you, that evil monster who made you think that you were unlovable. And it's like, okay, that's not really a monster. Therapy would be great for that part. But let me not mention any of that. No, these are people that I spot online. So the spiritual ego mystic and person, they play God, judger and caster of stones, forgetting humility and integrity. They play fortune tellers of a future that has yet to be written or seen, and unlike our spiritual ancestors who brought comfort and ease to the minds and hearts of those of us of faith, they bring terror, brimstone and fire and fright. Their words are full of darkness, meanness, vengeance, hatred, divide, and horrible stories. And that's because they have all unhealed shit going on inside of them, FYI. And that's because of the smart scientists that I learned from. I don't make up shit from my brain. I'm pseudoscience woo lady. These smart human beings have taught me, neuroscientists, neurobiologists, mental health professionals. And every time I hear anybody use the word spite, well, your 3-year-old obviously didn't know how to stand up for yourself with a differentiated self. So your nervous system felt helpless and hopeless in front of your caregiver. Mine instead said, you can't spank me. It's my body. And then I got to make a suitcase and not go anywhere. And I'm not kidding. That's my 3-year-old self. And I also corrected my biological father, who incorrectly called me the wrong name 3 times. I'm a twin. And I eventually said, I'm Maria. That's my ego right here. Here she is. No brokenness, though. So when I stand up, it's with equanimity because I'm Maria. And that's where Robert Spolsky, come on in. I can use determined. I know everything about Maria. And anytime there's new shit that comes up, it's my shit. And I do love God. But I know I can't prove God. And that's the point and part. I don't want to prove anyone. You don't have to believe. I'm the one that has faith. You don't have to have faith about anything. But when I meet spiritual egos, this is the part that they just keep on coming, like it's just... The science egos, they're fine. There's the smart scientists, but the spiritual egos, they need somebody to say, okay, Just let's come together, the spiritual process people, and leave the spiritual egos to do their stuff, because that's what they're going to keep doing. Okay, so at this point in our human history, the spiritual ego's narratives deny the scientific findings and explanations that prove the innocence of our brothers and sisters, who have no demon possessing any of them, and who do not have to pursue spirituality in order to be saved. They just need to pursue mental health, well-being, and if they wish and can, because that's the part we don't know, every embodied brain is different, they can achieve integration of the brain and a restorative embodiment, mindful life, and lovership and stuff like that, healthy self-worth people, or whatever best medium works for their embodied brain, so that mental health and well-being are achieved and they are able to function within society. Okay, so this is where they don't have to be of faith. The fact that people want to try to make spirituality provable or someone of faith, it's not how God works. It's in your bones. It's a feeling. It's you know. When I, in my 16 years of age or however old I was, and my teenage boyfriend, he's actively making his irrefutable facts of you don't believe for real because nothing exists, because that's how he's saying it. I'm like, you're not of faith. How dare you come to me of faith and tell me that it's not real? You don't have to have faith. So faith people know you don't prove faith and you don't make someone believe. And faith, blind. And I don't play God. And that's why the spiritual egos are just, I can tell who they are immediately. They play God. They're not God. And their scary God comes from their upbringing and their stuff, besides books that they use. So, all horrible, evil acts, thoughts, and behaviors of people and mystics have an origin. They have a story and an answer. Yes, it involves the embodied brain, unhealed childhood trauma, trust breaks, and trauma charges, and personality disorders, all of which are addressable and healable with a good therapist and the will to heal of the person or mystic. They all can heal. We know that not all of them want it because they're all over YouTube. But today, being a member of society in a way that holds integrity, humility, value, and collaborative effort is possible as a secular or spiritual person and or mystic. For people and mystics who don't want to heal and represent a threat to themselves and society, we have laws and justice systems that we rely on and have built for a secular and spiritual society, and that we update to make better with every year that passes by. Nothing's perfect, we all know this, but spiritual secular have lived together for a while. It's not going to change. So the science egos are no threat to spirituality or humanity, because you can't break faith. You can't break faith. You can't prove it either, though. So the part is, you don't prove God. Dark matter, dark energy works just as well, because it's actively nature always wins, which is why good always wins, because nature is balanced and sustainable. The only people who don't understand this is any of those egos that are out there who are chit-chatting with divisive shit. They're in and out group stuff. So, in the meantime, the knowledge and information that is accumulated and brought forth over time by brilliant scientific minds, those scientific egos, doesn't matter, because their pieces of information are used by the scientific brilliant minds. And they have been bringing forth what a person of blind faith and true spirituality have always known. We are all children of God, Mother Earth, Gaia, Akash, Source, Universe. We are brothers and sisters who anchor in heaven on earth, equilibrium and sustainability alongside the universal laws of nature, spirit, and science that all come together and recalibrate to new best reality for life and humanity to continue flourishing. Now, this is done with an integrated brain, a whole self. Okay, so that's why having in your body, restorative embodiment. Otherwise, there's hell in your body. And that's for another time. Maybe we'll continue. But basically, if you have inner not well-being, the hell is in your body. So you don't anchor in heaven. Also, sustainability, equilibrium. Again, even if humanity didn't decide to make something balance out, nature will. So the reality, again, is that nature and life always move forward, which is why Robert Sapolsky, come on in. Even in his analysis, I haven't read the book yet, but his other analysis, he knows too, like any biologist. That's why a smart brain is a brain that will know life, love always win, because only stupidity would think that evil had a chance. Evil is destructive, and it's mean, and it's not forgiving, and it's rigid, like the half-brain people who, again, don't know how they're not flourishing, but it's a future, our future, that no one has seen before. So they serve for those people who are not going to see that different from yesterday. Like when Elvis came in and they cut off his legs, remember? Okay, so this is basically similar. They don't like that we have differences. They don't like that we can now see one globe. They don't like things like that. Their mind will not want it. They get rigid, they get upset. But as I close on out, it's a future that no one has seen before, but that the minds and hearts of those of us who don't play God and are comfortable in the darkness of the unknown, thanks to mindfulness living and owning one's sense of self, we catch a glimpse of it without needing to refine the details in the way that spiritual science and pause self-blind egos do. That's their left brain. That doesn't know how to sit in the awareness, maximum uncertainty. So that's why that Zen master with his laundry, he doesn't know how to sit. And he's not Zen or master, because if he did have a marriage with darkness, he'd be able to sit in his human secondary consciousness without a dilemma and without a hard problem of consciousness, which is what makes spirituality people different than sciences people. If you're true spirituality doesn't tell you, I'll prove to you that the self doesn't exist. True spirituality knows what selflessness is like and knows why brains and minds need their little lines. You don't push a person out of their comfort zone without expecting them to. You don't push anyone outside of their comfort zone if you're actually a person who knows how to share the spirituality process. In fact, you don't need to disrupt anyone or anything, because also it's not by disrupting somebody's truth or reality that you get anything accomplished. Don't you know what that embodied brain is going to do? I do. It'll do what I have my own ego does all the time. I'm Maria, and I'll stand up even more. That's what happens when your embodied brain feels threatened. So it's ridiculous. Always found it ridiculous. When people say pain has you grow, no, pain pushes you, but that's only because you need it, because you're not smart enough to notice the again, masculines get the short end of the stick. They're all distorted feminines. So I'm an empowered feminine. I didn't have a broken 3-year-old, so I know exactly what it's like to be in an ease in my body. And so my brain doesn't have fear and uncertainty. I love to contemplate. You give me something. Actually, my brain loves a challenge, but when it comes to challenges, you need to be emotionally, mentally, and physically intelligent. And if you don't have the emotional, little giggly 3-year-old, you ain't going to be any of that, because I'm going to have to handle your baby. Basically play nice, because I got taught how to play nice, and that's where God taught me also how to not play God and be humble. And my mother taught me how to treat other children, and I learned how to respect myself first of all, because she taught me that too, which is why you can be a grown-up and speak in my face. You could spit in my face. She told me and taught me how to respond to any act of disrespect. Don't use your hands, use your mouth, don't curse. Don't stoop down to the level of those who have no integrity, and be good. You can always make it no matter what. You have 2 hands, 2 feet, or however it is she poses. These are those messages that I know. All I can tell you is I know how to stand up and say, I'm Maria. And that's why determined, come on in. And so you don't have to be spiritual to be a person of valor. No, actively, you want to be a person who owns your child parts and sense of self. And then I'll see you have a facade. No, I'll see you with a flag and a flag post, not a facade. The facades are bountiful. And that's why they need the other human beings who give them what they're going to see in the future, because they don't trust their own species. And they don't even trust their own self. They don't think they're capable of thinking, feeling any of it. I mean, gosh darn it, as a polyamory person, I was informed that I overestimate the usage of your brain. I'm going to say I find that quite offensive anytime somebody wants to call me stupid. And again, I am stupid on some things, but I still can try to. We can work it out. I can try. If I don't try, I'll never know. But if I've tried, I won't kill myself if I don't succeed. I'll say, okay, that's my weakness. Here's where I'm stupid. Can you help me? I need other herd members, because I can't do it by myself. I'm not ashamed. A solo self doesn't live by themselves. Don't you know? We're mammals. We're meant to have a meaning of life and connection. I mean, really, if I have to go alone, I'll do it. I'll make it. I'll try. I'll go blindly. God told me I'm physically safe, so there you go. But there is no threat, as I conclude, to humankind. Sharing with you spirituality or sciences. except for in the minds of those who have blind egos due to a paused self, non-bilaterally integrated brain and or brains, and life in dysregulated and modulated embodiment. Yes, like the fancy lady man in suits. These people and mystics have not accessed their mental, emotional, or physical intelligence, availability, mastery, you name it. They don't have the intelligence at all. I mean, they just have blah, 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 blah. Yeah, they disregard getting out of shame, by the way, blame, fault, and revenge narratives. They just like to share that with us on screen. They deny going to good therapists, so they live a life with a paused self and those blind spiritual science and paused self egos. And at the end of the day, we don't have to do anything about it at all. And when, 4D tries to make it seem like, oh my God, you're not going to make it into the 5D frequency. Well, I mean, really. Robert Spolsky, come on in with determined. It isn't because you can't make it. No, it's that trauma, you choose if you want to go and become the kind version of yourself and the person who has integrity. Other than that, pretty much, there's the law. So again, secular or spiritual, a person of true faith will know, I don't play God, because that's wrong. Jesus taught me forgiveness. Yes, forgive for they do not know. Stephen Porges confirms that, because again, your three modalities of the nervous system are only three, and when you're in your biologically root, I got a kid in the forefront of me, you're 0 to 8-year-old, I'm taught by attachment trauma educators. So the only other part that I know besides the choice of not going to therapy is lack of education and lack of interest, by the way. As all those fancy mantles, all they love to do is say, we can be heroes just for another day. Yeah, okay, ego. Nobody's a hero. You do not know that earth, with or without you, the earth keeps living, but not because it's going to eat you up alive. And no, you didn't do anything wrong. So anytime I see shame, blame, fault, revenge, I just think, wow, you had scary parents or something like that. Because at the end of the day, it's not just the parent or parents or siblings. It's actually your body, too. Your nervous system. As Stephen Porges points out, it's not the narrative. It's not the stories. The active reason that you will experience trauma and somebody else won't, which is why I determined, come on in, Robert Sapolsky, which is why I got lucky, might be in my DNA. It is how your nervous system responds to the events that are happening outside of you. Therefore, inner well-being, outer well-being, mindfulness, mindset, practices, skills. Come on over, 5D Collective, self-empowered people, mindfully, spiritually living and loving, being yourself. That's what we're all about here. And as for those spiritual egos, again, I wanted to share food for thought on this one because I am completely with no words as I continue to see how they play God, how they are fear-mongering, and how they disregard scientific evidence on a buttload. And these are smart human beings. I'm not talking about the masses who don't have access. No, I'm talking about human beings with credentials. More credentials than I'll ever have and ever want. Oh, they wear their fancy suit. They don't even fucking curse. Oh, let me see how beautiful you are and how eloquent you become so that you can, what, distinguish yourself from the masses? You think you're not part of it, huh? Well, Mr. and Mrs. So again, let me end it here because they just make me laugh in my butthole. And I'll close with this. In Italian, the Neapolitans, I think, they have, or someone, I always forget these specifics, but there's a comedian, or it's a comedic skit or something like that. So it's a guy, a poor guy is dead, and a rich guy is dead, and they're both ghosts, and they have been put in graves near each other. And the rich guy is always like insulting the poor guy, because, classism is something that you'll see in Europe, but, and that's the point of what this is trying to say. Just because you're rich doesn't make you a person of integrity or humility or a person of good stature. That's why the man can keep wearing his suits as long as he keeps speaking what he's speaking on screen. I just have so many, this man could be beyond a shadow of doubt amazing. His brilliance is there, but he has chosen to leave it all alone, whatever, and again, he's there. I know for which people he's there, because every voice has a reason for being there. Again, God is benevolent. Every one of his children will not be left behind. That they may not have heaven in their body, well, that's a different story. That they may live hell, well, again, that's the part of why the therapists are really great at trying to say, hey, we're going to help you get out of hellhole, which is self-loathing, gut-wrench, torn apart, but it's going to be you walking out of the hell, and that means a ladder. And anybody who wants to take things out of context, like those theologians who went ahead to decide, let me grab all the books and say Reiki is evil energy. Really? Really? you really don't even know who you are anymore. So when I think of spirituality and sciences and people that care, they come together, not apart. And they don't go dissing different ways that we can support each other. And Reiki is one of them, not to mention it's an entire heritage. Like Reiki professionals have been around for what, I don't even know that, I don't remember those specifics, but again, it's like, what the fuck? You really think that you, theologian, have the right to do that? I mean, you're not even good at business. Here, my brain of college comes into the mix. What kind of a representative of your institution are you? You don't know how it is to make negotiation and really what it is to come together with another side and be friends. This is that Five of Pentacles, and this is the lack mindset. This is envy, jealousy, spite. This is the non-bilateral. It's pettiness. Cain and Abel. Sure, that story doesn't teach me anything more than, hey, you know, if you're competing like that, your threat response is unnecessary because our planet is not a movie and you're not in the movies. I'm so sorry your teenage assholishness thinks that you're still in a movie, because the reality is that's what your limbic system is. I got a 3-year-old with a 16-year-old. I'm thinking, here kids go. So it's not something fancy, by the way, when you meet any of the assholes or the 7 of 14 charming. The only reason they are looked at by those who don't have empowerment in here is because they're not empowered yet. Go to Patrick Giahan. Watch how he'll help you empower. Get out of hypervigilance. Get out of an ignorant brain. Get out of any of your childhood trauma, and you'll see what I see, because that's all it's needed, is to have a whole 3-year-old heart and to stand up and say, that doesn't make any sense, because you're not a person who's leading by your 14-month in and out group with all this childhood trauma that's getting ignored. Because again, implicit memory doesn't have words. No, you're going to have images. The stories that were told to you were after the first year of your life. And anybody who's not informed on all this stuff, they are not informed. Here you go, sharing information, food for thought. So as always, thank you for stopping by, and I hope that you enjoyed. Like, share, and subscribe, and have a good one. We will be back with some more stuff. But yeah, I wanted to close it on out 5 minutes ago. I'm going to close it on out right now. So thank you again. We'll see you in a little bit.